Hello, welcome to CLSB Politics. Sean Briscoe speaking. So I've been out of pocket for the last few weeks because I've been in research mode. We're all kind of gearing up for the 2026 election. So I've been neck deep in spreadsheets and maps and just about every budgets. I, I'll go into that as the cycle continues, but it's been very busy the last couple months. So one thing that did happen, and I wanted to address it, and I've actually addressed it on another channel as a guest, is America more violent? Uh, we've had some political violence recently. Of course, I'm on the other side of the political spectrum from where that happened, but it got me thinking. I mean, you listen to the news, and it feels like everyone's like, the end is near, civil war, civil war. It's all this nonsense I keep hearing. And I thought I'd address some of that with what I would classify as math. Is it more violent? I'm Gen X. I was politically active in the mid 90s and late 90s. And I can assure you, it was worse back then. Some of you know that I grew up on Guam. And I actually had to try and explain to islanders on the other side of the planet what Waco was, where Waco was, and why the ATF and everyone was going into that compound in Waco, and what all that was about. So people lose context. People forget that we had the Oklahoma City bombing in the 90s. Yeah, it's almost like everyone's brain reset at 9/11, which I kind of get, but it was way worse before that. So I wanted to get into exactly what that looks like and how all that plays out. So uh, let's get into the math a little bit. Cool. All right. I'm going to blow this up so you guys can see it. So this is an ADL study that they worked on. And this is, the domestic use of extremist related killings between 2015 and 2024. I just thought I'd take on this little piece the last decade just so we can kind of understand this is involving firearms, because I just want to start this video talking about where the problem is. And the problem is firearms, total killed by firearms. As you can see, the amount that were not killed by firearms is literally a rounding error. And and my data kind of stops 2024 because the Republicans took over and they don't want to talk about any kind of killing, especially when it involves firearms. So my data is a little bit suspect, but what I want you guys to look at is the trend. The trend is down. And this is domestic extremist related killings. This is any fringe quasi political organization, and how many killings they're doing and things of that nature. Now, if there was a civil war, you'd see this number going up. There's not. It's going down. Now, the reason everyone thinks it's going up is because everyone's got a camera on their phone. Everyone's effectively, much like me, their own TV network, and they can talk about the stuff that gets you clicks, that gets you people eyeballs, because it's all about eyeballs, right? Case in point, when you're on the highway and there's a car fire, everyone slows down to watch the car fire. You get one or two of those in a month, you'll think they happen all the time because everyone's going to talk about it because everyone slowed down to watch it. Well, whenever there's any kind of political shooting or whatever, everyone slows down their life to watch it and pay attention. So that's what we're seeing. That's the effect. So getting into the actual real numbers of, like, we'll just start with police officer killings. If you're looking from 71 to 90, the left-wing extremists were considerably more active than they ever have been. So that would be whatever, that nonsense Antifa garbage they're always spewing. They want to go Antifa, they got to go pre-80s. They got to go look for disco. but also it was, the civil rights movement. You had a lot of, a lot of the Voter Rights Act, all that stuff really had come into its own in that decade. So you see a lot more of that. And then 80s to 90s, it gets a little quieter. These are, this because this is where like the police and the civilians are butting heads. It gets quieter in the 80s and 90s. And then weirdly, the script flips and you see right-wing extremists running into cops more. You never hear about that, but it was happening. And keep in mind, Islamic extremists are almost non-existent. But you would think, if you listen to Fox News, that that's all anyone's talking about. Not at all. So by 1991, you see a huge uptick in right-wing extremists. Like I said, the 90s were a blast, right? And 2010 was even worse. 2001 to 2010 was even worse. And that's, but in the middle of that, who got elected? Obama. And really, it started in 2007 because it's starting to look like he was going to win. So you've got that last third of that decade where, a lot of racist white people, for lack of a better description, didn't much like a black man getting elected president. And then you have, the last bit of his administration. It's super weird that once his administration kind of wound down, it cooled off. It's almost like, the white, well, I mean, there's your proof in the pudding, really. White wing extremists doing what they're doing because they don't like the things they're saying in their country, i.e., people of color in positions of power. So none of this data is really all that shocking, but it does tell you that, things were a lot busier. So these are sovereign citizen related murders in the United States. So these would be like, the right wing, any extremist organization that were running into police officers. So you've got a total killed of 66. And it's basically a 3-to-1 law enforcement deaths versus sovereign citizens. So these are the guys that are like, this is my land. You can pry my gun from my dead cold hands, that kind of stuff. Those guys. So as you can see, they kind of peaked right when Obama was president, and that's simply because their country doesn't have any POC president. They're their own country now. Remember all that nonsense? Yeah, that's what those guys are doing. So real quick, if you find this information interesting or useful when going to Thanksgiving and talking to your crazy uncle, please like and subscribe. I'm on YouTube and I'm on Substack. Feel free to donate through my YouTube link on PayPal, or you can subscribe on Substack, which is great. That would be awesome. All right. Now let's get into domestic extremist related killings. This is like all the different groups. So it's the right wing, the left wing, domestic Islamist terrorists, and then other miscellaneous extremist organizations. I honestly, I'm not even sure who those guys are, but there's one, they make up 1%, and I'm almost certain they're like protecting whales or something. But if you look at this, out of the 329 certified deaths between 2015 and 2024, the right-wing extremists make up 75%. So 3 out of 4. Now, all these killings are bad. But if you're looking for the group that's doing the most of them between, in the last decade, it's a 3-to-1 that it's going to be a right-wing extremist group. Now, left wings aren't off the hook, but they are really, really small, 4%. And then you've got domestic terrorism extremists. They make up the rounding out. Those are, you want to call them right to lifers, people that are just, taking out doctors and bombing, you know, abortion clinics, places like it's those kind. Not necessarily a right-wing agenda, but definitely some kind of domestic agenda, and they move to violence. And that's what they're doing. So right-wing extremists related killings in the U.S. perpetrated by affiliation. So we've got white supremacy. That's like all America should be white. Those guys are the worst. You got anti-government extremists. Those guys are like, I don't want to pay my taxes, blah, blah, blah. And you've got the toxic masculinity guys, 4%. And then other right-wing groups, 5%. So I think really what we're talking about here is the white supremacy and anti-government movements make up what's that? So 91% of the deaths in the last decade. So I do hear a lot about the FBI, looking at Jimmy Kimmel as the biggest threat to the United States. But when you actually look at, proof in the pudding, you're looking at who's killing what and when and how and why. It's 91% white supremacist, anti-government. Those are the guys you should be looking at. And honestly, start with the white supremacists, and then the rest of them are just a rounding error. So domestic extremist related killings in the U.S. perpetrated by affiliation just in 2024, it's white supremacy at 62%. You got anti-government 23, and then anti-government extremists 15. But you're looking at a white supremacy problem. This is where the problem's at. I don't expect the Trump administration to go looking at, or his Department of Justice to go looking at any of this, of course, because this goes against, their talking points. And believe me, that's all they care about are their talking points. So 5 most deadliest years, because remember, everyone's talking about, it's coming, Civil War, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that actually 1995, I guess, is when the Civil War is supposed to happen. A couple years after I got out of high school. Yeah, you put that many 20-something next gens together, I could see how we might cause a problem. But pretty much it was the Oklahoma City bombing that really nailed that one to the top at 168 deaths. In 2016, that was a pretty bad one. You had the Orlando nightclub shooting and 49 deaths. In 2015, you had San Bernardino, Charleston shootings, 28 deaths, bad. 2018, Pittsburgh synagogue, Parkland high school shootings. Those are the big ones. And then, of course, 2019, the El Paso Walmart shooting, where a kid with a gun didn't want, Mexicans coming over the border, I guess, and just shot up a Walmart. Not cool. Also completely inaccurate. Also completely instigated by the right-wing media, talking about how we're being invaded. BT dubs, we're not being invaded. So when we look at, where we were in 2015 versus 2024, hey guys, where's your revolution? It's not happening. Now, there's a lot of people out there that want you to think it's happening because they have a vested interest in eyeballs and clicks and all that jazz. But it's absolutely not happening. So where is it? Because that's all I keep hearing about. But when I actually dig and look at the real math, there's nothing there. It's a big nothing burger. So yeah, what happened a couple weeks ago was really, really bad. But is it the beginning, and all that? No. They would love it to be. Oh man, they love it to be. Because then they can bring in the National Guard, get the military involved, which is literally what they talked about in Project 2025. You can go back to one of my older videos and look at that all day. I did 15-part series on it. It's as part of their plan. But There's just not, it's just nothing there. So appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing more videos. Sorry about the gap, but here at CLSB Politics, it is me, myself, and I who do the video, do the research, do everything. Plus, got to try and make a living. So appreciate you guys for all watching. And I hope that you guys are paying close attention to what's actually going on out there. All right. Take care.